Brandt, Brennan, Jack. Hello, gentlemen.
How are you?
Howdy.
Good. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Glad
Brandt,
to
I
be
love
here.
I love the background, buddy. And
You like it?
Brennan,
I've been working on it all weekend. So
you're about as Canada Day as it comes, my friend. Look at that. Just really in the spirit of things.
Got a Heineken Hawaiian dad shirt as well.
Yeah.
hey,
Oh
I've
my
got the same shirt if you want to match.
I bought it at Value Village before I went to Toronto. I was like, oh, wow. And I bought like 8 of them. I have so many of them at this point, dude. It's crazy.
I love Hawaiian shirts. It's my
Oh,
go-to.
they're so good. I don't have a lot of defining personality traits, but that's one of them for me.
Oh, Hawaiian shirts is there.
Yeah. The fact I like baseball as well and
Yeah.
drank some beer on occasion, including last night, which
Occasion. I wish I could say the same.
So, gentlemen, what we will do here, Adam has to bail, so I'll be kind of running everything, and we will just he's going to count us in and stuff. So, hey, Jack, did you wind up getting your audio figured out there, buddy? Hello, Jenn.
Yeah, it should be good now.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, thank you all 4 of you for taking the time to join us. We're excited to get to it. Adam does have to, he's moving right now, so he's in the middle of packing. So I'm going to be kind of the lead host here, but I think we've all done this, so we should be able to get through. And
before I disappear, I just want it on the record. I think this team should be sellers at the deadline at this point.
That's my topic. That's my topic.
All right,
Okay.
Jen. Well, you can note where I stand then when your topic comes up.
I got yelled at for saying that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I should just sell all the UFAs.
I don't think we should get rid of like Bo and Vlad. I'm not saying something crazy like that, but like Chapman should probably get rid of him while we can. Anyway, sorry. You guys have a great show. Are we good to count in, Scott?
Yeah. Can everyone hear? I think people are hearing what I'm saying right now.
Oh yeah, you're unmuted. We're good.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm good to go then. If everyone's just heard me blather away, then sure.
All right, let's get going then. 3, 2, 1, and we're officially rolling.
Hello and welcome to episode 213 of The Long Toss, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, normally joined by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. But as most of you probably heard me just say when I was unmuted and thought that I was kind of behind the curtain and you couldn't hear behind the fourth wall. But now you know Adam is packing. He's found a new place, so he's a busy boy. So we are going to do all the heavy lifting here. We've got a heck of a panel before we introduce everybody. I will remind you folks, especially the Edmonton folks listening right now, we are trying to unite all Alberta Jays fans under one roof. Adam and I have started doing live podcasts. We did one in Calgary a couple weeks ago, and it was a ton of fun. So please come out and check out the show. It's going to be a good time. And if you use the code Walkoff, you save $5 on the tickets. The ticket link right now is pinned as our top comment in YouTube here. So to the whole grounds crew is following along, thank you so much. Feel free to get your comments in. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Of course, the super chat, you automatically get your comment read, although you may need to wait for us to fit it in. So before we do a bunch of boo-hooing, obviously this has kind of turned into therapy for me every Sunday, where I invest my emotional energy into this baseball team, and then eventually by the end of the week am incredibly disappointed and need to be built back up. And that's kind of the case again here. This Blue Jays team currently sits 45-40. Now, not great, a game and a half back of the last wild card spot, but when you start breaking down the wins and losses, it gets really, really disheartening. They are 0-7 against the Boston Red Sox. They are 1-6 against the Baltimore Orioles. They are 6-6 against the New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are 38-20 against everyone else. There is a legitimate argument here to be made that two teams are single-handedly taking this team down and really jeopardizing the 2023 season. Hello, Brennan Delaney. Welcome back to the show, buddy. How have you been? You look great. You got your Canada Day ears on, your Hawaiian shirt. You're looking at your best, bud.
I've been good. Not much is new for me. I mean, just doing my prospects thing, and that's about it.
We are going to get into your prospects things. It's actually going to be my topic. I wanted to pick your brain on that.
Okay.
Brandt, finally, we have managed to get you on the show, buddy. One of the hosts did take long enough. We tried many times, and to coordinate this has been tough. But welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I don't embarrass myself too much here, but I'm glad to finally be here after the 3 months of us trying to figure it out. So.
Well, we appreciate it. Jack Landry, welcome back to the show, buddy. Thank you so much. How's your weekend been?
Pretty good. Quiet Canada Day, fireworks going off all around, but you enjoy it. Jays, not so much.
I was actually, you know what my biggest Achilles heel is I am so prone to being hopeful. This team keeps giving me windows of hope, and like an idiot, I keep buying in. Jenn, our seasoned veteran on the long toss, thank you for joining us again. We're always thrilled to have you. Where are you at currently on your hope level for this team to be a playoff team? And has the needle moved since, let's say, Friday morning?
Okay, I'm going to start off with a story of how my day has gone. Okay. So I live in a condo. I have a patio, and I foolishly left my patio furniture out on the balcony uncovered throughout the entire winter, with a construction site on the property next door. And so I finally decided I wanted to maybe actually sit on my balcony this year, and needed to clean off the layers of grime and dirt off of my patio furniture. And I don't live in a house, so I don't have a hose. I don't have a backyard. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? This is more than just like wiping it down, right? What am I going to do? And so I kind of looked at what I had resource wise. Long story short, I ended up showering with my patio furniture. So I now have clean patio furniture. And the Jays are also in a mess of their own making, and don't know that they have a bathtub big enough.
Before the Red Sox swept them this weekend, were you feeling hopeful after them taking 6 out of 9 against the Marlins and the A's and the Giants, even though those weren't AL East competitors?
Yeah, I mean, they were looking good. The Giants were hot coming in, and they took 2 out of 3 from the Giants. And you keep thinking like, oh, they're going to get going. The bats are going. Something is going to happen here, right? There's a little spark, and you think you see that little flame ignite. And then the next series, it's quickly extinguished, right? And you just watch this series against the Boston Red Sox, and they just keep finding new ways to lose.
Truly.
Right. And it's brutal. And I was thinking today, even before today's game, back to last year's wild card series, and just the horrendousness of that series. But then when you really look at it, Alec Manoa having his worst start of the season and in that wild card game. And then the Gosman start, which they absolutely should have won, and then found a way to lose it somehow. And I feel like that was a precursor for this season in a lot of ways, right? Like now looking at it in hindsight, Manoa is, the greatest loss to this team in terms of they thought they could count on him. And he had that, we're hoping that he makes a decent start in AA tonight to see if there's anything there. Meanwhile, the bullpen is overtaxed with these bullpen days, and the offense is not going. And I really don't know. And I said this on the show a couple of weeks ago, this team doesn't seem to at any point be able to get momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at it like, okay, they're 1.5 games out of a playoff spot. And if they do somehow limp into that wild card, is it just going to be a repeat of last season? Because I'd almost rather them not make the playoffs, I think.
And this is where it's going to be really interesting because this team is good enough to truly sneak into the wild card. They absolutely are. In fact, they're even good enough to win that wild card. And what's terrifying, they might even be good enough to win the division series, which would mean that this front office has saved all their jobs. Like, it's kind of a really weird spot that this team has found themselves in for an organization who claimed their mantra for 2023 was going to be attention to detail, to look after the small things. It's just nonstop missing the details, right? Like if you look at this series against the Red Sox, gang, okay, and you start adding up little things like waving a guy when he shouldn't. And there were two examples of that, right? Waving Bo and the mess up yesterday with him being thrown out, trying to tie the game in the bottom of the ninth. There was waving Bo after his double where he got threw out at second and scored the 2 runs. And, you know, it's funny you brought up momentum, Jen, because if you look at this team, the way they play their games is kind of a good example of the whole season, right? Like you look at, they start to get momentum in a game and then they'll give up a home run, right? Like yesterday was a prime example of getting within striking distance of the Red Sox to come back. And I truly believe that comeback could have been a real game changer for this season. They have yet to really shown that they can change momentum in a game and make that big comeback late when, like, they were down 6-2. It would have been so huge.
That would have changed their fortune, obviously, in that one game, but also, to your point, maybe changed their fortune for the season. And
I almost feel like today's loss was kind of built on yesterday's loss.
Right, because it was so deflating, so absolutely disastrous. And I picked up the hot mic right at the end of the game, just before they threw to Jamie Campbell. And you could hear, he wasn't on screen, but you could hear John Schneider say, I don't know what to say, right? Like that was picked up by a hot mic. And I thought, yep, that's exactly correct.
Brandt, what were your thoughts on this season series? Or forget about the season series. Let's just microcosm this to this weekend.
I don't love being negative all the time. And this is the first series I've come into where, like, obviously things aren't going well. To me, I think this is the one that you don't like not winning against Boston, but I've said it time after time on our podcast. I don't really care about your record against the AL East teams. All that matters at the end of the day is what your record looks like at the end of the year, 162 games. Right now, like, yeah, we had a bad series, but they also had an okay week, and every other team that's in the battle right now had a bad week. We're talking the Astros went 3-3. The Angels, I don't know how they finished, but they were at 2-4 coming into today. The Yankees went 3-3 against Oakland and St. Louis. The Orioles went 2-4, and the Rays are probably 4-2 right now. I didn't see how they finished either, but no team is running away with this right now. And we have 77 games left right now at this point. The Red Sox loss hurts. Sure. It was a bad series. Wipe it off. Keep moving on. There's at some point, one of the teams in this battle has to find their game. Hopefully that's us.
Jordan Romano has been a question mark the last couple weeks. Where are you at, Jack, on just how this team's bullpen is being utilized and the high leverage guys? Because we've watched a couple games be given up here.
Yeah, well, I know the bullpen is spread kind of thin right now, but it's kind of proven now that forcing Romano in a non-safe situation is not a winning strategy, right? I mean, he's a fantastic closer most of the time. I give him all the credit in the world for that. But using a closer in a high leverage, non-safe scenario, it's like running out of milk and subbing in orange juice in your cereal just because it's associated with breakfast. Like, it's the dumbest thing.
Romano, too, specifically, his numbers are staggering. In the difference between his save situation and his non-save situations. Like, it's two completely different pitchers. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think anyone, like even a casual fan, has noticed that it's just not working. And it's so weird, you know? If we were up 1 run in that situation, he would have come out there a different pitcher. And we can say that having seen it a million times, but I don't know it's mental. It can't be anything else.
Brennan, you've been a big defender of Trevor Richards. This team would be screwed without him, wouldn't they?
He's so good. I love Trevor Richards. any role that you need him to pitch in, he does it, right? You want him to open up the game, he can open up the game. You want him to come in medium leverage situations, he'll come in medium leverage situations and do pretty well at it. Like, he's kind of a reliever that bounces around between a 3.20 ERA to about 4. But at the end of the day, you know that Trevor Richards is going to get the job done. And that's why he's probably my favorite pitcher in the bullpen. As Brad
Should he be
knows.
higher leverage, or should they, or like, this is the one thing with Trevor Richards that has been impressive that you touched on, right? Is that he has managed to, any role they put him in, succeed in. And I know that there were a lot of people calling for him to be DFA'd last year. Even at the beginning of this season, it was happening.
I remember that.
Yeah. So when, and Brandt, you're not alone, buddy. I mean, I think all of us, even the grounds crew in the chat here, can attest to the fact that there were times over the last 2 years where our patience for Trevor Richards had run out.
Yeah.
Mine never wavered.
When it comes to a strikeout guy, Brennan, is Trevor Richards who you're going to when you need a K at this point?
Yeah, I think so. The changeup is just insane. It's an 80-degree pitch, and even the fastball itself. It's not like a plus pitch or anything, but it does have some really interesting properties. So, it has the second highest raise out of any pitch in any fastball in the league. I think it's like, I don't know the exact amount, but it's up there. It's like 3 inches of raise. So when he locates that, the changeup plays pretty well off of that. And that's what we've seen this season. His success is because the fastball is being used well, and the changeup is just, it's a reverse slider. That's what I call it. It bends down this way against lefties. As someone who's a right-handed thrower, it's so
unhittable. It really is unhittable. He
should be getting some more higher leverage too, though.
Because we've seen this from Trevor Richards before, right? Like, we've seen stints of him be unhittable. I know Dalchmaris brings it up in chat here. He says Richards was the Jays' best reliever in July and August of 2022, a 1.7 ERA and a 0.7 WHIP. So my question to you, Brennan, is Trevor Richards for real? Is this the Trevor Richards we can expect going on out for the rest of the season?
Relievers are just so hard to peg.
Just for this season. Do you believe in him for 2023?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah? Jen, how about you?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing is from this season is real and sustainable.
Well, since the third week onwards, he's shown no other reason to believe otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the fifth pitcher in this rotation is currently about to start in Double-A, right? Alec Manoa, New Hampshire Fisher Cats. We have been limping through with bullpen days. Trevor Richards, like Brennan mentioned, right? Whatever spot you put him in has kind of exceeded our expectations. Bowden Francis has been phenomenal. The other guy that they got in the Rowdy Tellez trade with Milwaukee a couple of years ago. Brandt, do you see this sustainable, though? Like, at what point does this team need to fill this fifth starter hole? And do you expect them to do so before the trade deadline?
I don't see it coming before the trade deadline, or maybe at the trade deadline. I can't see it happening, but I think it does need to be a need that is filled soon. Because like we've mentioned about Trevor Richards, yeah, he can fill that opener role, but I would much rather see him in a role where at the back end of the bullpen, where he's probably a little more needed right now. If you have him running out there for 40, 50 pitches every fifth day, you're kind of wasting him for the rest of the week.
Does anyone here think Trevor Richards should be stretched out as that fifth starter? He's already hit 65 pitches. He's kind of regularly being put into these situations where he's, pitching 3-4 innings. Is there an argument to be made, or is he just too valuable currently as this guy that they can use in any situation?
How far can you realistically stretch him out? Like, what's your cap on how far you can stretch out Trevor Richards today?
80 pitches. 80
so 80 is getting you 6
4
innings?
to 5 innings. I don't even think it
on
gets
a good day.
6. I think you're trying to get 4 and 5 out of him if you're stretching him in this scenario.
So now you're running into a scenario where your starter's hopefully getting you 4 or 5. I don't think that's a scenario you want to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to the milk and orange juice comment. Like, he is a reliever. And if you take him out of a role that he has excelled in and try and, get more out of him, you're going to end up with another, Romano in a tied ninth inning.
Yeah, I would say that it's funny. I want more flow right now, but it's just when it comes to this fifth starter hole, like, how do we even fill the void? Because you look at this team and their prospects they have are either super valuable and you don't want to move them because you're sacrificing the future, or maybe they're too much of a long shot and teams don't want a bunch of lottery tickets and you can't fill that void. And then within, does anyone here think Hyun-Jin Ryu could be an option? Like, what can we expect out of him? Jack, I'm curious what your thoughts are on a guy. And listen, Hyun-Jin Ryu has a track record, so that is one positive here. But how much can you depend on a guy that just went through Tommy John surgery? It's a lot to ask.
It's a huge ask. And, Ryu is really the wild card in this equation for, I think, the Jays front office. They would be taking an absolutely massive gamble making any moves for starting pitchers until we know what, Ryu 2.0 looks like. And then there's the Manoa variable. Like, is he going to get his stuff back? So you have two pitchers that can be great. You've seen them be great. You're paying them a good amount of money to be great. So if you make a trade, you're not going to get much for either of these unproven right now guys. One of them coming off of major surgery and one of them just completely in the dumps. So you can't do much as a front office other than kind of wait it out and hope for the best. And I kind of think that's their only move right now.
The Rangers
Jenn?
kind of already set us off here, though. Sorry. Go ahead, Brandt. The Rangers are already kind of jumping the gun on the trade deadline and bringing in probably one of the better relievers available. Whatever you think about him as a person, whatever, he's one of the better relievers available. If they're a team that wants to compete and that's going to do that, should the Jays not, if they plan on competing, should they not also be making a move to bring in some sort of starter like a Giolito, or maybe not a Stroman, because Stroman's probably not going to be available anytime soon, but someone that's you could bring in to be a stopgap for now. And hell, if Manoa comes back good and Ryu looks like vintage Ryu, then you're looking at a 7 depth starting rotation. Like, I don't think that's an issue. Exactly.
We're looking for a 2015 David Price silver bullet, and it's just not there. Like, it doesn't exist.
No, but I don't think you need that this year. You've got 4 starters that at the top of their game have been some of the better starters in the AL this year.
I had suggested on Twitter using Nate Pearson as an opener since he can't go more than pitch back-to-back games anyways. I don't know. I mean, again, it's still a stopgap measure. Like, we're not actually solving any problems here. We're just sort of at the bare minimum being able to get Trevor Richards back into the bullpen, where I think he would be most useful to this team. Right. That's, and I'm just looking at, if, asset management. If you can't put Pearson in back-to-back games, then the opener role actually seems suited to him. My concern is that they're going to look at both Manoa and Ryu and bet on one of them being able to step in and fill that 5th starter spot. And I don't think they are going to go out and get a starter for that reason.
That's a fair concern, though, because you're concerned about that because this is the way they approached trade deadlines the last couple of years, right? It's, can we fix this with minimal? That
seems to be their MO. And I mean, even on, I think it was on Blair and Barker, and Schneider was on Friday, and they weren't talking about pitching. They were talking about hitting, and they were talking about Kirk having to hit so far down in the lineup because his bat's not going. And, Schneider's comment was, well, if he can get his bat going, well, then that's like an addition. No, it's not, because you were relying on him all season. It's not an addition. It's a guy doing what he's supposed to do. Right. And that's how but I think that's how this front office will look at Manoa and Ryu. Oh, if one of them can step in, it's like an addition.
Listen, we have had some hitters get hot and who have managed to do the job in that cleanup spot, but there has really been nobody who has taken the job. And I think that it has been pretty detrimental to this team and the way that their offense has been put together. Brandt, can you speak a little to the lack of production that this team has seen in that 4-5 hole as the season has progressed?
I wish I could. Like the numbers don't make any sense. They're all like, they're hitting well as a team as long as there's no one on base. And there's nobody that's stepping up to be that 4-hitter because nobody can hit when it matters. And as individuals, their numbers all look at least above average to good, like at worst. But when you put the whole team together, it just, they're not getting anything done and no one's stepping in to be that cleanup hitter that can drive in runs and do a job when they need to do it. I don't know what it is, but it's just as a team, they haven't figured it out.
Brennan, do you believe in clutch?
Yep, I do. I don't think it's as important as some Derek Jeter fans believe, but no, I feel like you do need to be clutch to hit when runners are in scoring position or when your team needs runs. Again,
would you
like
move
Brandt
this
said,
batting order around? Like, what would you do to try and stimulate this offense a little bit?
Is
there a guy
I don't even know.
Right?
Like
Today sorry, go ahead.
It's okay, you go.
I was going to say today, notwithstanding, Belt shouldn't be hitting third.
No, true.
Right. And, you know, everybody keeps talking about or has mentioned that they do need a right-handed bat. Is it possible that if Seattle falls far enough out of it, they get back a certain...
I brought it up on Twitter. It's entirely possible.
Will they take Adam Macko and Cash? Yes.
See, Oscar's been like really good over the past few months, I think. Like he always starts off really slow, but like, it was like last season too. After June, he had like a 150 WRC plus or something. He's up to 111 now, and he was down earlier, so he'd be a great addition.
And that's kind of to Brandt's point there, Brennan, in that this team, if you individually take the players and look at their numbers, it's fine. But when you put it together, it has just been a pretty consistent problem for scoring runs. Any answers? Does anyone have a thought on, like, I guess my question to you four is, when you watch this Jays team, is there any moment where you're like, why is he doing this? Why isn't this guy here?
I mean, I missed the entire series. So.
They mentioned
process there.
On the broadcast today, they mentioned it, and I don't hate the idea. Given the way George Springer's hit at the top of the lineup right now, would it hurt to move him down into like the 3-4 spot and maybe see if he can stir up something while he's hot, see if he can do it? But on the flip side of that, George Springer has, I think it's like 78 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. He doesn't have an extra base hit. Wow. So I don't know if he'd be the guy, but I'd love to give him the chance to see maybe that with the way he's hitting right now, that he could turn on one with runners on, turn one run into 3 instead of hitting a solo shot to lead off the game.
Yeah. Right now, I don't know if there is a guy, but I agree with dropping George down in the lineup and seeing if that does anything. And I am still not enamored with pinch hitting Espinal for Varsho.
No.
Just to get the right-handed bat in there. I still don't quite understand why that's happening, especially with what they gave up for Varsho. Let Varsho go out there and do what he's supposed to do, what you went out and got him to do.
Especially when one swing of the bat can change the game, and Espinal's not going to do that for you.
Absolutely.
Varsho can run into one even against a lefty.
Yeah.
Espinal's not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I think this speaks to the greater problem here, and that we have the pieces and there is a way to rearrange them and there is a way to properly utilize them, and it's not happening. So at a certain point, we have to stop, or at least consider not blaming the players. Like there's a mismanagement happening with these amazing assets we have on this team.
John Schneider keeps talking about consistency, and that if you're consistent, there will be results. But we're more than halfway through the season at this point, and it has been relatively disappointing results from this offense.
But it has been consistently.
Yeah. Right? So I don't understand the reluctance. I understand not trying something just for the sake of trying something new. I don't believe in just throwing names into a hat and pulling them out, and that's the order you throw up on the wall, right? But I do think you can be a little bit more strategic, especially given how certain players are hitting right now, and build your lineup around that. Tampa Bay does it all the time. All the time. They are not locked into 1 through 9. And I really think whether that's Schneider or the team around Schneider making those decisions, I don't know. But I'm going to put it on Schneider because he is ultimately the one who fills out that lineup card.
I mean, that is the one thing the Tampa Bay
choice.
Rays do better than almost anybody, is that they are so malleable. They are able to go with the flow. When teams are rigid in the way they set their lineups, I really think it is a detriment to them, and Tampa doesn't have any of that. There are no self-imposed roadblocks when it comes to the Tampa Bay Rays. And if a guy gets hot, they will move him up the lineup. If a dude is showing he can't hit lefties, they'll figure out a way where they can platoon him. They are the best team in baseball and maybe in sports in taking their assets and putting them in positions to excel where other teams may miss the boat on giving them those opportunities. And as a Jays fan, I know we're all speechless. So it's just so frustrating because you're like, why can't we do this? There are 28 other fan bases also screaming this. So that's the one, good takeaway there. But it is really frustrating. And going to chat here, Chucharu says, I hope they stand pat at the deadline, or if we suck up to the deadline, become sellers. We aren't winning anything this year. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that this team is, I kind of said it off the top. I think they're going to do what they're doing right now for the rest of the season, and they might get into the wild card. They might not. If they go on, let's say, an 8-game winning streak, I do think that changes everything, but this team has constantly kind of done that, given us a little window of hope, and then pulled off a series like Boston just did. But I am curious. Yeah. No, go ahead and jump in.
So last season, Philly was one of the worst teams in the playoffs, right? The season before that, Atlanta was one of the worst teams that made it to the playoffs. If you make it in, you can win. All you need to do is get hot. And I find baseball is probably really the only sport where the best team almost never wins, like Houston did last season. But again, you had Philly there. You had Atlanta the year before. You had Washington, who had a good season in 2019, but they also made it.
The Dodgers have been the best team in baseball for how long? And they've won one World Series over the course of that time.
It was the one year where the two best teams in the league also made it to the finals because of the COVID shorten. So I think your goal should be the wild card spot number 3, because you just avoid all the AL East. You'll play the Twins, who you'll probably be better than record wise, and then you'll play probably the Rangers, and we all know the history of Toronto kicking Texas's butt in the playoffs. But no, I feel like you should maybe sell off the people that will be free agents at the end of the season. But this is definitely a playoff team, even if they haven't lived up to their potential yet. That's just my personal opinion. Others may differ, but no, I think that they can win.
If you walk into a playoff series with Gausman, Barrios, and any of the other 2 guys pitching to what they've been doing this year, you can win any series. All it needs is some good games out of your starters.
100%. And not to beat a dead horse, but 2015, we've seen it happen. We've seen a dramatic turnaround after the All-Star break. It's possible to just kind of sneak in. And once you're there, all bets are off. I
mean, I agree with that, but Gausman had a great game in the wild card series last year. So
but our bullpen is a hell of a lot better than it was going into that wild card game last year.
Absolutely, but they're also getting pretty tired.
Yeah, remember who we put in after Gausman.
Yeah. No,
And
I know.
we all
I'm just saying, like
Jenn, you bring up a really good point because we watched this happen in 2022 and we watched it happen in 2021. We watched this organization burn out their good bullpen pieces. And I tweeted this afternoon. I was like, Trevor Richards is not going to have an arm by the time we're done with him. He is already at 41 innings pitched this season, which is, if you look at last year, he pitched 62 innings. So he is on pace to beat last year by a 30% increase. Eric Swanson right now has pitched 39 innings, actually make it 40 because of the inning he pitched this game here. And on top of that, has made an appearance 39 times. He's come out of the bullpen. That is too much work for those two guys. It just is. And it's concerning.
I would just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's my concern, and since we're talking about it, this was my topic for today's show, right? Will they be buyers, sellers, or stand pat? And they're not going to be sellers in the traditional sense because in any sense, sorry, because as long as they can sniff a wild card spot, and with the increase in season ticket prices going up next year, there's absolutely no way that this front office is going to pull the plug on this team. Even if you wanted to argue that they should, they're not going to. So that really,
I feel the same way.
Right? That leaves being buyers or standing pat. If they're buyers, who are they trading?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have a lot of valuable assets in the farm system to trade away. Are they going to trade off of the major league roster? Would they be willing to trade the contracts that are expiring? That would include a Matt Chapman. Are they going to do that? Does that make the team worse? Right? So I think they might make a small move or two, but essentially stand pat.
Similar to last year's with the Whit Merrifield.
Yeah, I would.
Right.
Mitch White, stuff like that.
I see
All-star
the same
Whit
thing,
Merrifield,
Brandt.
by the way.
Hmm?
All-star Whit Merrifield. It was just.
Did he make it?
He did.
He made
Vlad.
the All-Star. So it was Bo and Witt.
And Gosman.
Gosman.
And
Oh,
Vlad.
is Gosman starting or is he just?
I think he
Yeah.
was just simply added.
Is it
Okay.
Chappie on there?
No.
No.
Who was
Okay.
Unfortunate.
the other third baseman that would have made it then?
We'll get into this. This is
Yeah,
a topic. Like this is on the show notes, so we will talk All-Stars in just a second here. But let's finish up. Are they sellers? Are they buyers? Do they stand pat? And I know that there's a lot of talk in chat right now about should they rebuild? Like, should they completely tear this thing down? And I could be biased on this because I'm old and have seen too many rebuilds that just don't work out. It is such a trying process as a fan. And I'm not there with this team where I think that they truly need to tear the walls down. I think that there is a lot of good things happening on this Toronto Blue Jays team and the pieces that they have in place. I think that they need maybe a retool. And that's where I am interested in what you said, Jenn, where you're like, does this front office have the intestinal fortitude to trade their free agents and retool looking towards 2024? And I don't think they do. I think that maybe should be the move that they go about, but I don't know if they do. Jack, when you look at this organization, what do you think the best route forward looking at 2024 is? And do you think that the front office has it within them to make the moves to do that?
Well, they've invested heavily in the hype machine for their core players. So I don't think a rebuild is at all possible. I just, there's been too much stock put in Vlady being a generational player, even though Bo's clearly better, but whatever. We are, as Jenn said, like we are in a position where we can't do a damn thing. The ticket prices are going up. They cannot field an objectively worse team next year and charge more money to see it. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And they're in a bind here that you can really only get out of by trading up. So yeah, I think we could be seeing, limited days of Matt Chapman on the Jays.
that is interesting. And I would be, everyone in chat, feel free to join in here on your thoughts on the Blue Jays moving Matt Chapman at the deadline here. Chris Lippingwell in the chat says, I think you guys are missing the elephant in the room right now. Base running and hitting with runners in scoring position has been terrible. Always blaming the pitchers, puts pressure on the chuckers. Brandt, do you want to talk a little bit about runners in scoring position and how much that has the lack of doing so has affected this team?
That's the whole issue this year, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know when we blame the pitchers, but realistically, the pitchers have been great. The starters have been phenomenal for the most part. The bullpen's been good. Even the guys that started like crap in the bullpen have been better as of late. But when it comes down to it, they just can't cash runs. And back to earlier, we don't really seem to have anybody that has the clutch factor. Like, is there anyone on this team right now that you see that you would expect to get a hit with a runner in scoring position? Personally, I don't have anyone.
I mean, Bo.
I would expect Bo perhaps to put the bat on the ball. And other than him, there isn't somebody that I would want to be in that position and think, oh, this is the guy that I want here.
Even Bo, like Bo, like there hasn't really been a moment in a while where I've seen Bo do something big in a moment where it's tie game, runner on second, Bo drives him in with a double or hits a 2-run shot or something. There's not many as of late. There were a few earlier on in the season, but seems like nowadays there's not really anyone that's getting the job done.
You know what we haven't had this season that we have had in previous seasons is a Chris Colabello type player, a guy who just kind of comes out of nowhere and just gets it done. Is a big bat in the middle of the order that maybe you didn't have to pay a bunch of money for, but just gets the job done. I don't know.
The 2021 Lourdes Gurriel.
Oh, I thought you were saying we needed someone that did steroids.
We also need that
in my head too.
I'm really glad, Jack, you read through my subtleties. I didn't want that to be lost on everyone. Yes. No, but I mean, can we have someone who can sneak under the radar as a cheater and just kind of get us there?
Yeah. Peak at 35 and do a bunch of ads for Booster Juice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk All-Stars. Not a starter amongst the Blue Jays. Does this bother anybody?
Nah. We have great pitchers, but we don't have like top tier pitchers right now.
I mean, Bo Bichette probably should have beat Corey Seager out. I mean, Corey Seager played about 60% of the games that Bo did, but fan voting's fan voting. Brandt, do you begrudge?
I think we pissed the world off.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that happened.
Yeah.
Because everyone was trying to get all the Jays in, and we got 5 guys in as finalists, and everyone's like, well, look at these Jays fans. They're trying to overrun us. So everyone voted against us. And I think it's fair.
We united all of America.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly.
First time that's ever been done, but we finally got it done. So,
but a lot of it makes total sense. Like, it's hard to argue a lot of them. I mean, we all voted for Witt. We love Witt. Did anyone really think Witt deserved to be a starter over Marcus Semien? Like, that's bananas. Okay. Did Bo get snubbed? I don't know.
Yes.
You could, maybe. You could argue Bichette over Seager pretty easily on hitting stats and just presence for his team this season. But like, Seager has 150 fewer at bats. He's not far behind Bo in like all of the stats. So I get it, but I'm looking at this as like a Mario Lemieux season, He could have amazing numbers, and his season is shortened. So you have to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he 100% deserves it over Bo, but there is an argument.
I think those arguments make sense for like the end of the season awards and stuff like that. But when you're only looking at half a season and you've played 60% of half of that season, it's tougher to me to try and give that guy the nod personally. The numbers are comparable, but Bo's been doing it day in and day out.
Yeah. And longer track record.
Yeah.
No, that's completely fair. But I mean, definitely not Witt over Semien.
No, none of the other ones would have made sense.
No, I didn't vote once because I just don't care enough, to be completely honest. It's fun.
It's for the kids.
Yeah. But other than Bo, not a single J did deserve to be a starting player. So I'm absolutely fine that, all of the United States decided to outvote Canada.
I
think it was kind of deserved, to be honest.
Pardon?
It was kind of deserved.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
People got real cocky about voting in all the finalists. It was kind of getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Even with Vlady, I love the way MLB kind of handled Vlady because he is the face of the Blue Jays, whether he has performed to where we thought he would at this point in his career or not is irrelevant. He is the face of this team, and he is probably the best known player on the Blue Jays. And I kind of love that he's not on the All-Star team, but they have wedged him into the home run derby, and he is going to be a part of the celebration, and he is going to be representing Toronto and be that recognizable face. Brennan, do you like that Vladdy's in the home run derby?
Oh, I think it's fun, man. That was a great time. That was my favorite home run derby in 2019. So I think that's the last time I actually watched one. But no, it's great that he's in there. It's fun to watch for the kids, especially. It's fun when you have a Jay in there as well. And even getting it as a reserve, which he did, is also pretty good. Like he's still having a good season.
Yeah.
But it's just not what you expect.
I don't think he's generational. It sucks to say, but it's been 5 years now. He is someone who will probably be a perennial all-star, but I don't think he's going to be like generational. It's sad to say, but I am happy he's in the home run derby to answer the question.
Brennan, do you think Bo's generational?
He's one step below generational. His defense was a little bit better. It's getting better. In fairness, he has the tools. Like
significantly upgraded.
He does have the tools to be at worst an average defender. It was more just his internal clock was not good. But like few seasons, it's a lot better this year. He's not making nearly as many errors. He's calmer when throwing the ball over to Vlad, who also makes great stretches. But I'd say he's one step below generational.
Jack, do you like the home run derby?
I love the home run derby. I think it's. Oh, sorry. Did you say Jenn?
Jack, I said you nailed it, buddy. You were
okay. I love it. I think it's great for the game. I think it attracts young fans specifically. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we'd watch the home run derby and then we wouldn't watch the actual All-Star game. Like, no one would give a shit. I think it is potentially problematic for the arms of players involved. You know, I mean, I know players often do not want to participate because of the risk, but I mean, for Vlady, this is just extended BP and he could use it. So I'm fine with that.
Quick correction here too. Vlady is on the All-Star team as an alternate. I know I said he wasn't. Sorry. They announced the alternates here, everybody, while we were doing the show, and I'm trying to do both host and it. So my apologies, but yes, Vlady is an alternate on the team. Jenn, I know we've talked about this before, but do you like the home run derby? And is there anything within the All-Star break that you would change to make it more enjoyable?
I think the home run derby is a ton of fun. Right? And it's really the only skill I think that they can showcase without there being an even bigger risk of injury. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I do like the NBA skills competition. I think that's a ton of fun. And I would love to see at the Major League Baseball All-Star break, I would love to see like, a stolen base challenge. I would love to see, like things like that.
The bunt derby that they do in Japan.
The bunt derby in Japan, yeah.
Yeah, like there's so many things that I think they could do, but I think the risk of injury is so much higher that the home run derby is the one thing that they can do to showcase a player's like one talent and kind of make it exciting. So I don't know if they could figure out a way to insert some of these other skills into some sort of competition. That would be my way of improving it.
That would be so fun, I think. I love, too, that Mookie Betts is in this year's home run derby. I love little guys hitting bombs. I'm pretty pumped about that. Brent, do you have any favorite home run derby moments? Like looking back on the home run derby, is there any that stood out to you?
There's not many that beat the Josh Hamilton home run derby for me. I don't know why. I just remember that he didn't even end up winning it, but like the run that he went on back in the old format too, where he just hit everything for every round except the last one was incredible. Obviously the Vlad one's cool. I'm a big Bryce Harper guy, so watching Bryce win it with his dad was also super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
that's one
home
thing
run
they've
derbies are
actually
just
done a
fun for
pretty
those
good
moments.
job of, with the home run derby, is there have been those moments. Like even last year with Pujols was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Pujols
I
and
watched that
J-Rod,
one,
like both in that derby, and like seeing them both go at it kind of was really cool. I think they should just do this derby for stuff like that. Like, I don't care if you're in the All-Star game. Like, if you can stand up there and be Pete Alonso and be an absolute lunatic and mash homers and look like a meathead the rest of the time, that's fine. But he makes the derby so much more fun just by doing stupid stuff like that. Or you have Bryce's dad throwing him stuff like that, where he's throwing him cutters and he's still hitting them 500 feet. Like, stuff like that is what makes the derby more fun. I think that should be a thing every year.
Couldn't agree more. Anyone have anything to add on the home run derby here before I go to chat?
I will just say, as a millennial, a 90s kid, I mean, nothing, when I think of home run derby, the first thought that will always come to mind is 1998, Ken Griffey Jr. And
Slugfest.
and you know, like, there's something about, I know that was kind of the steroid era of baseball and it's tainted in everyone's memories, but like that was just pure showmanship. And I would love to see that style of baseball, showmanship return.
Jack, we're about the same age. And I honestly, 1998's home run derby, like I was 16 and I remember how captivated I was. Like, just like I remember bouncing around my living room, just like, this is crazy. So if they have something with the home run derby, and I do love the idea of what Jenn touched on of like showcasing, some other skills would be pretty darn cool. I know they showed Ronald Acuna Jr. This isn't even a skills thing or anything, but they just showed him in foul territory casually throw a ball into left field from the other side of the diamond. And it was just so crazy to see. And I'm like, how far could he throw? If you get Acuna like a running start and just see the distance, that would be such a cool.
Was it
like a home run derby
JBJ
with arms?
Yeah, was it JBJ that threw the one over center field? Like,
yes,
back when he was in Boston?
JBJ from behind home plate. That was a few years ago. That was crazy. Yeah,
guys like that you don't really think of until they do something cool like that, and you're like, whoa, that's just ridiculous. Like watching Vlad in warmups when he'll throw balls up to the 500, and people are like, oh, that can't be that hard. That's so far to throw balls up that far, and like what he can do is just ridiculous. To see those type of talents from those guys, it's insane.
So this is a bit of a left turn here, but I love this comment because I did see the video. So iHomer360 says, has anyone seen Mark DeRosa break down Vladdy's current swing compared to 2021 on MLB.com? It's pretty devastating. And I don't know, did any of you foresee this by chance? So basically he put it side by side and broke it down, and it was wild how drastically different it looked. And one of the things that I found myself thinking while looking at it was, if someone can point this out to me, an idiot, and it be obvious, how is this not something that the Jays coaching staff is taking on head on? Obviously they are. Like, I'm not saying that this isn't like one of the major concerns within the coaching staff of the Blue Jays is getting Vlady right. But when you look at his compared swings and it's so drastically different, how do you go about fixing that? Like, at this point, I know we talked about this last week and I don't want to get too into it. But Jenn, I know you kind of touched on it last week. Is there a coach on the hot seat at this point? Like, are we getting to the point where we could possibly see Dave Hudgens or somebody like that sacrificially fired?
So I haven't seen the video, but if the difference is so drastic, my question would be why? What led to those changes? Was it the coaching staff who had to develop those changes? Right?
See,
because I don't understand otherwise why a player in an off season or would decide to change their swing or change their stance, right? So it's possible that it was under the coach's tutelage that he changed it. So my first question is why, right? Why did he change it? And if that has anything to do with the coaching staff, then that might explain why, even though you, an idiot, can undersee what's going on, they haven't changed it yet, right? Because for whatever reason, they think it will pay dividends if he's consistent with it. I'm just speculating at this point, obviously, right? But I've been saying for a while that I do think A coach could absolutely be on the hot seat. This has been a disappointing season. Particularly like from the offense point of view, this has been a very disappointing season. You can't fire Schneider. Whether or not he deserves to be is a different story, but you can't fire Schneider this season. Maybe in the offseason if things really go sideways. But if you wanted to send a message or you wanted a new voice in there, then it has to be the coaching staff right now, right? It would have to be a member of the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. And I've advocated for that. I keep using the analogy of a therapist, right? You get what you can from a person, you learn everything you can. And then it's not that they're no longer good. It's that you've learned everything you can from that person and you now need a new voice in your ear.
I think the question kind of gets muddled a little bit when it comes to guys like Vlad or Bo or some guys like that, because I don't know if you know, but Vlad's dad was a pretty good hitter himself. So when he goes home and he listens to guys like him who are telling him to do something, I don't know if you take in from very many other people on trying to make changes to your swing. If your dad, who is currently a Hall of Famer, is telling you to do something, I would probably stick that route. And then I don't know if you can get anything out of your coach.
His uncle works with him a lot too.
This is the other thing, right? All of these guys have personal hitting coaches, have people they're going to who know their swing, have their Uncle Wiltons, right? So
Bichette worked with Troy Tulowitzki all offseason, right? That was another thing. Like they all have their own guys that are teaching them stuff like this.
So I am curious if that is the case and all these guys have their own guys, how much of an influence would say a Guillermo Martinez be on these guys?
This was one of my topics I had today, by the way, but
I'm burning everyone's topics here.
One thing I would like to also point out is that I think starting last season, he started to have wrist injuries too, which could really affect
it changes your swing a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Can't really grip bad if it's arthritis or something. It's something that it may be more comfortable for him to how he's swinging it right now.
That's really interesting, Brennan. And I know that has been a topic of conversation, is that maybe Vlad is injured and has a bad wrist. Jack, if that's the case, is that just negligence on the Blue Jays organization?
I think that the Blue Jays organization, first of all, if he is getting different hitting coaching advice from two different sources and they're not in unison and synced up, that's a problem. So you can't have two different voices coming in your ear telling you to hold the bat two different ways and come out of it doing either one of them the way they want.
Somewhere in the middle.
So I don't know if this is just a player having too many inputs. I don't know if this is a player that is, just struggling to find his swing again. I don't think that there's anything physically we can attribute to this. I really just think there's a lot of inputs, as Brandt suggested. And look, he's a great player, but he's not a consistently great player. And as Brennan said, I don't think he's a generational player, despite all the hype that was given to us. He's good. That's it.
I agree. I don't think he's generational. And I'm not even sure he's a step below generational. I think he's a step below a step below.
Perennial All-Star.
Okay. We're going to go around the horn here. And just a yes or no answer. Does Vlady hit another 40 home run season, Brandt?
I think so. I think Brennan, if he changes launch angle, he's hammering balls. I think he could do it.
So.
Yeah. Jack?
Yes, in pinstripes.
Oh, never. Panava. Jenn?
Yeah, I think so. He hits the ball hard. So if he can figure out that swing, I don't see why he can't have another 40 home run season.
He's 97th percentile in maximum X velocity or average X velocity too. Like both of them are 95 or higher right now. Yeah. Like he's still hammering the ball right now. He just can't get it in the air.
Mashes it on the ground.
Yeah.
To speak on a little bit of the many different voices in some of these guys' ears, Dulcimeris brings up a really good point here. He says that came out in the Anthony Telford interview with the Walkoff. So we talked to Anthony Telford, who was the pitching coach of Nate Pearson and runs a complex in Florida where guys come and work with him. And he kind of mentioned, he says, MLB coaches are constantly tinkering with pitchers and hitters, and sometimes the player should not change. And the reason he was saying they're constantly tinkering is that they want to take credit for success, right? Because it does help their profiles moving forward as a hitting coach or even a special instructional guy who gets hired, right? A consultant of types. I guess there's no real, I'm not throwing this to anyone. I more just brought this up as like, yeah, like there's a lot of guys who have a lot of people in their ears, and there's a lot of ulterior motives, maybe beyond just trying to get a guy right. Anyone want to touch on that before we move completely to the next topic?
I just think anyone wants to be the guy that said, yeah, I helped Aaron Judge hit 63 homers last year. Like it gives you a job, probably, if you're the one that said, look what I did for Judge, I can do that for your team. So I think everyone's going to be trying to make their,
like, without a doubt,
likely.
right? That gives, yeah.
I think, and to draw from a different sport here, if you look at what happened a few years ago with the Toronto Raptors, everyone knows the name of the person that was working on Kawhi Leonard's knee and keeping him, healthy throughout the season.
Great example, Jack.
So that's, you can earn a lot of fame from just being the person that, keeps an athlete healthy and successful. And that certainly set a precedent in this town.
It did. Okay, well, we'll go around the horn one more time here. Do you think, again, established Vlady, to everyone here, not quite that generational level, very good ball player, obviously. Does anyone think he'll hit 50 home runs? We don't even need to go around the horn. Feel free to speak up if you think 50 is a possibility. I think I'm out on 50. I think 48 is probably going to be his career high. I hope I'm wrong, but anyone feel 50 is a possibility?
It is. Jose Bautista, for instance, like, look at a player like that, he got to, his autumn years in his career and was suddenly at his prime. It can happen. It's rare, but it happens.
If he changes his entire approach and he isn't trying to get on base or trying to work counts and do stuff like that, and he's just going for homers, the guy could probably hit 65. Like, if we're being honest, he's got the power to do it, but he's got to commit to trying to be a homer guy. I don't know if you want him to do that, but he could be a guy that could hit 50, 60 homers, and I wouldn't bat an eye.
So we'll leave this topic on this. New Brunswick, Canada guy says, at this point, I think Vlad is not as good as Carlos Delgado was for the Jays, which, I mean,
it's long
probably the biggest Hall of Fame snub out there, Carlos Delgado. So, like, still pretty darn good, right?
Not a Hall of Famer, though.
Not a Hall of Famer, though. Nope. Okay. Let's talk the playoffs and the AL East currently and where we're all feeling on it. If you look at the AL East right now, obviously the Tampa Bay Rays are in the lead. The Toronto Blue Jays 11.5 back of the division. The division's gone. I don't think there's anyone out there who can convince me anyone. I want to meet the Jays optimist fan that thinks that the division is still in play. Actually, it would be a nice breath of fresh air.
I'll totally play devil's advocate there. I'll totally be that guy.
I can't wait, Jack.
And I'm pessimistic as hell, so this will be fun.
Okay. The Orioles are 6 back of the Rays and 5.5 ahead of the Jays. The Jays are currently 1.5 back of the wild card, 1.5 back of Houston and New York, who are tied for that wild card spot. Let's start with the Baltimore Orioles. Brandt, do you feel, when you look at this, still a ton of baseball to play?
Yeah.
The Orioles have had the Jays number all season long.
Mm-hmm.
They're 6-1 against the Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Toronto can catch Baltimore? Or is that also at this, like, I've eliminated the Rays as catchable in my mind. In your mind, is Baltimore?
I don't think we can catch the Rays, but I think there are teams that could catch the Rays. But in terms of Baltimore, I think Baltimore is definitely catchable. Their rotation isn't good.
No, it's not.
Realistically, they're just hammering balls and they're scoring a lot of runs.
Jays don't do that.
No, eventually, I think you're gonna come across a point where the Orioles' luck kind of runs out offensively. Like they got a lot of guys riding highs right now that I don't think they're going to carry that on for 162, maybe 100. But I think at some point you're going to hit a wall where that rotation isn't going to be good enough to carry you through wins. Whether or not we can make up 5.5 games without beating them, I don't know, because it just has not gone very well so far. But if you go on a run against if we sweep the Orioles in our next series against them, if it stays the way it is until that point, that puts us 2.5 back, and you're looking at a good run for the back half.
Jen, with where the Jays are at, do you see them possibly getting the number 1 wild card spot?
Do I
In fact,
see?
you know what? Let me change the question. Where do you honestly just feel this team will wind up?
I think more than
likely. I
more
know,
than likely they will make the wild card. More than likely. The Yankees have had a lot of injuries and could be better than we've seen from them. So I don't know that the Jays are necessarily going to catch or keep pace with the Yankees. If they're close, then it all comes down to what is it? They don't play them again until the third week of September.
The season.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that could end up being an absolutely pivotal series, right? We'll see. I don't think the Jays are catching the Orioles. I just don't. I think that I didn't think the Orioles would be in this position up to this point. And I think we've seen enough out of them that one way or another, you're right. The rotation isn't anything to write home about.
But the fact they've won in spite of it is like mind blowing.
Is this not what they did last year, though? It was last year
they-
that they were riding high for most of the season, and then the last month and a half they just were not good again. I don't think they can continue to do that every year. I can't see them riding that rotation out and being successful for 160.
But they are in a better position to trade.
They can literally do whatever the heck
They have
Yeah, they can do whatever they want. And they have
Much better.
so much
They're in
money.
a much better position to add, and they
All the
absolutely could do
prospects.
that.
They have a lot of chips. They have a lot of
Oh my
they do.
God. The Orioles are just, I envy them, and I hate that feeling. I hate the
I miss
feeling.
when they were bad.
Yeah. Oh my God. I miss when they were bad. Were those better times, everybody?
Just quick.
But you know what? That's how everyone felt about us a couple of years ago when we had all these promising, bright young stars that honestly just aren't panning out. Like it's such a cutthroat game, and you can be hyped up to Vlady levels and then be Vlady.
So going to chat here, Taco Time says, called it, by the way, and I can attest to that. Taco Time has had the back of the Orioles and thought they were real all along. I did not, but I am eating my words, and the Orioles are for real, even though their starting pitching sucks. I even think, like, if they go out and do something crazy, which they could at the deadline because they have the prospects to spend, and they could spend a major prospect without really affecting the team, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if they go and do that and they go get a big time stud pitcher, the Mets have some available, right? Like the Padres have some available. Some of these big spending teams that would love to have someone come in and eat up a contract could do that.
Like Snell on the Baltimore Orioles.
Like Snell or something.
It's cursed.
So
Would the Orioles do it though?
Well, they've
Like, I
done
know they
these
have the chips,
as
but
well.
when have they ever done it?
Because they have the assets to win for the next few years if they hold on to everything. Like you'd be mortgaging your future for what?
When have they ever done that?
They legitimately can still trade a bunch of prospects.
that's what I was going to say. Is I don't know if they even are mortgaging their future because they're so
crazy.
deep.
But what if you end up missing on some of the guys you keep? That seems to be like what the Baltimore Orioles mantra has been my entire lifetime, is they just keep on trying to bring up their own guys, and when it doesn't work, you ship them out of town and bring in new guys.
Yeah.
I don't recall a time when the Baltimore Orioles have been in the trade market for someone that's been at the top of the list, and they've brought them in with their prospect capital that they've had, and they've been rebuilding since 1985.
And the Rays continue to do Rays things. I know Daltmaris brings up Jose Siri, and I mean, the guy has been just a revelation.
Oh, really?
The dude was a defense-only center fielder, right? Like, he literally was only good. He was Bradley Zimmer. Like, they were literally bringing him in as a defensive replacement at the end of games. Jose Siri was playing 50% of the time.
Yeah,
and then
16
the
home
Rays-
runs. What the heck?
There you go. No, you beat me to the punch there, Brennan.
didn't he
That's
miss, like,
exactly
2
what
months?
I'm getting at.
What the heck? Yeah,
So
I mean,
I just
24 on here. Sorry, just talking myself.
no. I was going to ask you, Brennan, when you look at this AL East, who's going to the World Series out of it? And
Toronto, Miami.
So we're putting no faith in
Toronto,
Texas.
Miami.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, we're gonna sweep Texas.
Okay.
Texas, they cannot beat Toronto in a playoff series. We've already learned this from the past.
Fair.
Like almost a decade ago now.
No, you're right.
I can't really beat anyone in a playoff series.
No,
No,
they stink.
They're awful.
This is super speculative. Super speculative. If you each, and we'll go around the horn here, had to pick the ALCS, who are competing in the American League Championship Series to go to the World Series? Brandt, we'll start with you.
I think Texas can win a series. I give them a chance to be in there. I don't think it's the Rays, honestly. I think they're running out of health. I think Shane Mack's down again with his back issue.
Yeah, he is. Which has
I don't know how deep. And then
season, but
Tyler Glasnow just got lit up yesterday. I don't trust them all that much to be that good. I would say maybe Texas and Houston. Houston's too good to not keep doing it.
That was who I was going to say.
I was going to say the exact. Yeah, that's. We
It's
don't
just
even have to go around the table.
it seems too easy, but like the other ones are just for fun. Like if you say anybody else, you're kidding yourself. Like Houston's been the best franchise in the majors for 8-7 years, give or take. And then Texas just looks like they have it all right now.
Asterisk, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You're right. But
So nobody's picking Minnesota?
why
They
not?
need to abolish that.
Are they even going to win the division?
I mean,
Is Cleveland
They're
going
like
to figure it out?
42.
I mean,
and 42
figure it
they're
out.
tied.
I mean, Cleveland, this is the thing. Like, I love that you put it that way because it's like, is Cleveland going to figure it out? They don't even need to. Like,
No,
Minnesota's
they can
42
back
and
their way
43.
into it.
Cleveland's 40 and 42. Like, they're right there.
They're half a game back.
I was gonna say Shane Bieber is a good target to get if you just want to destroy the prospect pool, but I mean, I don't think they're gonna trade him now.
They're just
so.
not. It sucks because nobody in the Central's in a position to sell because they could
Because
they can have an
They're
average
all-
month and win it.
It's
Yeah.
the same with
You don't
same
even
with
have
the
to have a
NL
good
West,
month. Like
NL
you could go
Central,
6 games above 500 and be in the lead of the division.
What
The
is
Detroit-
chill?
The Detroit Tigers are 10 games below 500, and they're 4 games back
It's
of the
insane.
division lead. Just wild.
The ALCS is going to end up being like Detroit and the Yankees or something.
It's
Maybe something stupid.
it's not even that. It's the NL Central as well. It's just like
It's
there's
just
so
a
many
s-
small market teams in that region. So you have like Milwaukee like every single season. And to be fair, Milwaukee does have like a good organization there. They don't like,
They've just
spend a bunch of
been
money,
good
but-
forever. Never been great. They've just been good.
It's
Yeah.
got to change the format to top seeded teams, and that's
Yeah.
that. You know,
I
it's,
agree,
it's
Jack.
so simple. It's just this is such convoluted bullshit, and it should always be the best teams facing the best teams. Done.
Are we allowed to swear? I didn't know we were allowed to swear. I've been swearing a lot.
Oh, fucking give her, bud.
Oh fuck yeah. I try not to do it
No.
on Twitter, but I mean
It
podcast.
truly is. I mean, Jack, I couldn't agree more. I mean, what are we doing? You're getting teams to play 162 games, and then you're going to not put the best teams
Yep.
forward. Like, just so gross.
It's so arbitrary, you know, and it cheapens the competition of the sport.
Truly.
Yes, it does. And it would require a commissioner who actually cares about the integrity of the sport.
He doesn't
Yeah,
even
well,
like the
we don't have that.
We
You mean the
don't
guy who
have
called the
that.
World Series trophy a piece of metal doesn't care about our sport? Is that what
Personally,
you're telling me?
I'm not even mad at Houston. Look, if you're not cheating, you're not trying at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
All the power to you.
They cheated, they got caught. The punishment was not nearly enough. They lost what, like a first round pick? Yeah, that's gonna stop the Houston Astros. Fuck's sakes.
Well, and then what's to deter any other team from figuring out how to cheat as well, right? If the punishment is so light, might as well set up an even playing field at that point.
They
Well,
should have
at
made
least-
them keep their dome open for an entire season in Houston. That's
Closed. Keep it closed the whole season.
I mean, at least they punished
open.
at least they punished the Astros a little bit and didn't just tell them to go wash their hands. So little victories there, right?
Really.
Did they
You
punish the
have to-
Astros really though? Like they punished the coaching staff.
They punished the Astros because people found out. I find it
Yeah.
so hard to believe that the league just like didn't know any of this was going on.
No. Yeah.
Which is the league's MO, Jack, right? Everything's a go until people find out, and then we'll change the rules mid-season. Like that's literally what they did with Spider Tack, and I hate the sticky stuff. I really do, and I'm glad that they cracked down on it. But also, they didn't crack down on it. So now they're just like the whole league is all about lip service.
Oh yeah, because you can still use the mix of rosin and sweat. That's basically the exact same stickiness.
Yeah,
And you're not getting in trouble for that. But as long as the
sure.
public,
Mr. Perfect.
let's face it. This is a problem that could have been solved so quickly and so easily had they just tacked the balls. Just pre-tack it. This is the ball every single freaking team is using. Away we go. Problem solved.
A uniform solution for the whole league would solve every problem that we have. It doesn't even have to just be tacked up balls. Like if you give them one thing that everyone can use if they want to.
every
then it
player
solves all
lines
the
up.
problems.
Every player lines up for a steroid injection in the butt.
Bring back steroids. It's my hot take of the day.
Yeah, but
They're like,
mandate them. Mandate
Yeah,
them.
that's right. These steroids aren't increasing the
Not
spin
optional,
on my
mandatory.
curveball at all. Yeah. Okay. We are going to move along here and start getting, you know what? I think we do have time to, because I was going to do this last Shohei topic as if we have time, and I think we're going to have time. So let's talk Shohei Ohtani a little bit, because the guy is, I mean, at this point, I think he's arguably the greatest ball player of all time. And he's definitely the greatest
not
ball
arguably.
player I've ever seen. The guy is, so I was going over the numbers. And so before I say any of this, I do want to just state that it is, in my opinion, more unlikely that he does any of these than it is likely he does any of it. But it is insane that we're able to, at the halfway point of a season, talk about the fact that Shohei could do the following things. He could win the Triple Crown. He could be the American League leader in home runs with 63, beating Aaron Judge's record just made last year. He could lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts, and he could win a Cy Young. Again, I know that it's unlikely he does all of this, but the fact there's a guy that we're talking about doing any of them is pretty insane. Brandt, do you want to jump in and
Can we
give your
say
thoughts on
anything with
Shohei?
Shohei is unlikely anymore?
He had a home run today too.
Of course,
Everything he's done so far is like, oh, it's unlikely that he does both. It's unlikely that he becomes a great hitter. It's unlikely that he stays healthy. He's done it all, like all the way along. I used to be a big Shohei naysayer, and I'm like, I'm well off of that at this point.
yeah,
But you mentioned he could win the Triple Crown. He could win both Triple Crowns. Like he has like a legitimate
Wild.
shot to win the hitting and pitching Triple Crown this year. It's ridiculous.
the fact he could lead the league in strikeouts. Like he could lead the league in strikeouts. And he's running away with the home runs. Like,
I use this analysis as well. Okay, so you know how, sorry, Brent, Austin Matthews scored 60 goals last season. Was he unanimous heart? Nick David's like, oh, I'm petty. I'm going to score 63. And that's what I feel like with
That's what
Shohei
Shohei's
Judge.
doing right now. Yeah, you're
It's
right.
like, okay, so he's gonna hit 60 home runs. I'm gonna hit 60, whatever, 69 or something, maybe 70. Let's go. That'd be
And
cool.
for all the hype about Vlady, like this is the generational talent. This is
Yes.
no one can debate. There's no argument. I was sour when he got the MVP nod over Vlady.
me too.
I was not happy about that. And I realized that, like there's merit for both to be selected, but like we're way past that. Okay. I'm not a whiner about that anymore. Like we're talking Babe Ruth comparisons. They got the Tungsten O'Doyle arm memes about him. Like he's in his 6th MLB season and like not even a no question Hall of Famer, but like when you get to the Hall of Fame, there's going to be more pictures of him than fucking Babe Ruth. Okay.
Yeah.
This is
I
a
don't
guy
think
generational.
you can't compare him to Babe Ruth at this
No.
point.
This is a guy that
No,
people
Babe
will
Ruth can't hold
still
his
be
job.
talking about. That people will be talking about Shohei Ohtani 100 years from now. Okay, like that's not hyperbole. That's not an exaggeration. 100 years from now, when there's like space trains and shit flying around, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, Shohei Ohtani, the greatest ball player of all time." It's nuts.
It is
That's
nuts.
a Trevor Richards.
Robin Chat here says he's like, he could also fly without assistance or possibly walk across the ocean.
Probably.
I mean, what can't he do?
Well, and
It's crazy.
after that MVP season, right? I thought, okay, you know, how much more does this guy have in him, right?
Apparently much.
And
Much
we
more.
have no idea where that ceiling is. He just keeps raising it all on his own, and we've run out of superlatives to describe this guy. It's absolutely unbelievable. What's even more unbelievable is that before he joined the MLB, you know, you could argue that the Angels had the best player
Yeah.
of all time already, and then they went out and got this guy.
Watching him the
can't
other week, leave the game with some soreness, and then off the mound, and then stay in the game as the DH and still take at bats. Like it's just
Wait till
it's
he
like
starts
Jen
playing
said.
center
There's
field.
no words. There's just
Real quick, Jack brought up the what do you call it? The Vlady MVP, or what could have been the Vlady MVP, and that seemed like a discussion at the time. Is anyone here against Aaron Judge's MVP from last year's yet?
Yes.
Yeah,
Are you
just
though?
'cause of- yeah.
He's
just- I just
a
hate
New
him.
York Yankee.
Obviously,
Yeah.
he's a Yankee, sure, but if you look at what the Yankees are this year without Judge, and I think that was the thing last year, was like Aaron Judge is the MVP because if you took him off the Yankees, they would stink. Well, you took Judge off the Yankees this year, and they stink without him.
I don't have a logical argument against it. I just like it's all pure emotion and hatred, and there's no.
That's fair.
There's
I'm with you
no
there. Yeah, that's
logic
my
at
reason
all.
as
It's
well.
just when I hear his name, my blood boils. You know.
He is a real nice guy.
I
I've
do
seen him
like him
interact
as a
with
And that
people.
human
makes
being,
it
but he's a
so
genuinely
much
good
worse.
person.
That makes it like if he was a real terrible person, like this would be easier. But
Yeah.
I know that he's a good person, and it makes it so much harder to hate him.
but I still do, which makes it even worse.
Oh, you can't.
If he was a Giant, I would like him.
Aaron Judge,
Yeah.
If he ended up going to
lovely
San
human
Francisco.
being. He's
Yeah,
on. He's
exactly.
he's a lovely human being.
But he's a Yankee at the same
Yeah.
time. Therefore,
Honestly-
I
He wears
hate
the
him.
wrong jersey, but he is a great human.
He's,
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
great ball player, great person. I absolutely love him. I really do. I don't care. As a Jays
No,
fan,
yeah.
I have no problem saying it.
I'm
He's
not
good
a
for the
fan,
sport.
but I was sitting in the first baseline corner last year, and I was watching him. He was warming up with a ball boy, and he's like, "No, I'm done." Went up to this like 7-year-old kid. He goes, "Hey, put your glove on." And they started playing catch for his entire warm up, and that was his whole warm up, just throwing with this kid. I'm like, man, like picks out a Yankees fan, finds him, and plays with him. Like that kid's had his life made right there.
Yeah,
And that's all it takes, and he's just so good with stuff like that. I'm like, I can't hate this guy. I should, but I can't.
See, that just makes me continue hating him, but hating
Yeah.
myself in the process.
Yes, thank you, Jack. As long as we're on the same page here. Yeah, pinstripes, man, can take a real good person and just make me dislike them. All right, let's do some topics here. Did anyone have anything to add on Shohei Ohtani before we move on?
How
He's a
long
Blue Jay
until he
next year.
breaks the single season home run record?
That's a really good question. I love that question because I'm starting to believe it's just a matter of time. It's Shohei Ohtani. There's nothing he can't do.
No.
Let's go around the horn. Let's just a yes or no. Brandt, do you think Shohei could hit 63 home runs? Even not this year, just in his career. Is it possible Aaron
Well, I think
Judge's record
63 is
in
easy in
danger?
his career. I'm thinking the other home run record, the actual home run record that matters.
Wow.
I think if he in the next couple years, if he decides that he just wants to hit because pitching's too much on his arm or something, he could hit it no problem.
And that's like with a few years, not in the MLB too. Like that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
Can't
It sucks that
disagree.
we missed out on his first few years.
You know what?
He was such a
I
kid.
think it's great for Japanese baseball. I think
Oh, absolutely.
the NPB is a fantastic league, and I'm getting more into it as time goes on. And you know what? I'm all for sharing the wealth.
Yeah.
Taco Time says this season, a few other people think he can do it. I'm gonna say
Who's saying he
that I
can't hit
think he can
75
do-
this year?
Especially if
Yeah.
steroids are illegal again.
Yeah, he
or
can't
legal
hit
again.
75 this year, but yeah,
You can't say
63
he
is
can't.
Really
He might.
doable. He might.
Absolutely
You're right.
could.
I think
love
we're
that.
at
Put
a
it by
point.
him.
I think we're at a point in baseball where athletes are so well conditioned that no record is unbreakable. And if there's any person in the league that's going to do it, it's him.
There's a couple records that are pretty unbreakable, I think. Nolan Ryan's strikeout record all time
Yeah.
might never
56, I don't think is ever going to be
56 is a
either.
tough one. What's it called? The games in a row. I can't remember fucking who did
Cal
it.
Ripken,
Oh, yeah,
Iron
no.
Man.
Cal Ripken.
Yeah, thank you.
I think. Look,
most wins
people
in the year, too.
people said that Lou Gehrig's Iron Man streak couldn't be broken until Cal Ripken broke it. It was deemed. There's a plaque at Yankee Stadium for how Lou Gehrig's record will never be broken. And then like 30, 40 years later, they broke it. Like athletes are just different animals than they were 10, 20, 50 years ago.
How many guys played 162 games last year?
Yeah, well,
I don't think there were many.
Yeah, but like these guys were plowing fields in the off season. Like
Sure.
they weren't working out and like eating kale
Nope.
smoothies. Like they were eating fried chicken and working fields. Like people were eating disgusting food because they didn't know any better. They were eating full sticks of butter and then going and like working in their father's radio shop.
The term sports science didn't even exist.
But I think
One
sports
that's
science is the
never-
reason why half of those records don't ever get broken. Is because you're not going to get guys that are playing 162 games a year because they know you can't, and no one's allowed to do it anymore.
Yeah, but
Old
you also
Hoss
had
Burns is
yeah.
never gonna be broken either.
you had pitchers throwing complete games every game. Like it's just such a
600
different
innings
sport.
in a season. Yeah,
It's insane.
that's never happening again.
All right, it is topics time. So we're going to go around the horn here and see what you folks have brought to the table. Jen, I know you were going to do buyers and sellers. Do you have another topic or should we move along?
So I'm really winging this one. Okay.
Love it.
Somebody sent me a quote from today's game. It's from Kevin Gosman. Okay. So this is Kevin Gosman. I'm reading the tweet as written by Keegan Matheson. Okay. So Kevin Gosman's insight on the Blue Jays AL East struggles. I think we have a target on our back. It sounds bad to say, but people know how talented our team is. So they know they have to really bring it. If we don't bring it, they're going to have a higher intensity than us. Is that just excuse making? Are other teams getting up for the Blue Jays because they believe the Jays are so talented? And that's why the Jays are being outperformed by the AL East? What do you make of those comments?
I think they need to
Go
stop
ahead.
talking to the media because
Mhm.
a lot of the time, a lot of those quotes get thrown right back in our faces. The whole movie thing. Just the tire pressure one as well. He
Yeah.
first clean in, by the way, I think.
On one hand, like, yeah, you're just saying it for the sake of saying it, but also like you look at the series that we played, Jarren Duran had 4 doubles today. When does Jarren Duran ever do anything good? Ryan Mountcastle tears us apart every single series we ever played. When is Ryan Mountcastle ever good when he's not playing the Jays? It's just like there does seem to be guys that get up to play the Jays, whether it backs up statistically or not, maybe not, but I don't disagree with it.
But wouldn't you then think in turn that the Jays would get up to play the Yankees?
That is
You would
honestly,
hope.
Jen, that's the part of the quote that just rubs me the wrong way. Is
Yeah.
It's like, what, you can't get up to play the Red Sox? Like you're in your division and
Yeah.
have beat you 4 in a row the last time you played them. And now they get up and you can't. Like it just, I hate that quote. I get it comes from a place of frustration, by the way, because I know Kevin Gosman constantly pitches gems and constantly takes the L. And the fact that he didn't get a W this game is maddening, especially after they took the 4-2 lead and actually finally put on a little insurance and to still lose it. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that comment.
Especially because he's not getting run support. And I understand that he's trying to deflect from the players that aren't giving him run support, but let's be real. He is pitching some great games. And then we're putting up like 1-2 runs and like losing, 3-2. Like, it's not acceptable. He's frustrated. He's trying to take the nice guy approach. He bumbled it a little bit. I still love Gausman. Always will.
I would almost rather a no comment.
They don't have that ability. Let's be real. None of them have that ability anymore.
It's so hard to, when you're coming off adrenaline like that, to like think rationally and maybe I should keep my mouth shut.
Alec Manoa wearing any other jersey than a Blue Jays, you're like, I don't have the game on right now.
You hate him.
Jersey. It's such a weird look, man. He's wearing the Fisher Cats jersey. It's so like, it's what?
To play devil's advocate on the whole situation. Sorry, just real quick. I don't hate the fact that they're not going full bore for 13 games against the Red Sox to try and be the best possible team for 162. We mentioned sports science. You don't want to go 100% every single game, because if you're blowing all of your energy to beat the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Rays, it's a lot of games that you're just spending that you're taking yourself out of the rest of the games of the year, especially with the balanced schedule this year. It's way different than it used to be.
Didn't they lose?
I don't know.
Only 3 games to Boston last season.
Yeah,
but Boston sucked. They just could not figure it out last year.
I feel like this is kind of their revenge.
Yeah,
so maybe they do.
We also talked way too much shit about the Red Sox.
Well, it's the Red Sox,
as we should have, and we will do again if they have a shit season again.
Absolutely. The second they're down, I'm kicking, baby.
But they're still below us.
So the Blue Jays, I just bring this up because we're talking about the Blue Jays not being able to get up for Boston and their offense being so anemic in the most needed times. They won a 2-1 game against San Francisco on Thursday with 3 freaking hits. 3 hits. They won a game with 3 hits. Like, this is why this team, I haven't completely written them off, because I'm angry with them. I'm upset. I'm frustrated where this team is at. I really had high expectations coming into this season for them. But if you can win a game against a good team like San Francisco on 3 hits, that's how you win a playoff game, right? And I'm not saying that this team has given playoff vibes, especially not after this weekend. I'd look like a complete idiot saying that. But they kind of gave playoff vibes against San Francisco and against the Marlins, even though, and I know that a lot of those who are good teams and a lot of those playoff vibes are because they aren't scoring.
Atlanta and
they swept
other
Atlanta.
good team, right?
When did they play Atlanta?
But it is
May.
their record against the AL East that is keeping them at where they are in the standings, right? And that's a fact.
I mean, you could even go smaller. You could even say it's their record against Boston and Baltimore.
Right.
Because they've been okay against the Rays for the most part.
Right.
I think they're only a game below 500.
They're 6-6 against the Yankees and the Rays combined.
Okay.
But I think that's what's really demoralizing about it.
Yeah.
That's what's really demoralizing about it, because like if we squeak through with a wild card spot, who is it? It's an AL East team, but like it's not going to be a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
And
if we squeak through, it's
like
the West
sometimes
team,
you have to give credit where credit is due. James Paxton pitched well on Friday night.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due. But yesterday and today,
winnable games
that got thrown away in some fashion or another. And that's what's really frustrating. And that's where it's not necessarily the other team getting themselves pumped up to beat you. You're beating yourself. And that's way worse.
Yesterday came down to 8 inches from Kevin Biggio and a bad decision from Louis Rivera, and that would have changed the entire game, which could have changed the entire series realistically.
And today it was Romano coming in a situation where he shouldn't have been. These are all decisions
and a bad throw from Vlad.
Yeah.
That's
I
all
think
it boiled
that's
down.
why I think that's why this season has been so difficult as a fan base. It's just they're beating themselves. after coming out to start the season and being like, we got to stop beating ourselves. It's the little things that matter.
And it's always within grasp too. That's what really hurts about this. It's like they're close, just painful losses.
It's nice to say that the little things matter until you're there and you're trying to focus on the little things and you try too hard to focus on the little things and then you screw up the little things. It seems to be kind of the case this year. They're trying so hard to make the little things matter that it's kind of hurting them a little bit.
They were one of the one of the worst base running teams last season. I think they've gotten worse. Like they have players that can steal now, thankfully with Kiermaier and Merrifield, but I don't think they've gotten any better.
Bo Bichette's gotten
worse.
Bo Bichette's gotten
I was so waiting to see
slower.
where you were going with that. Like you were like, they were bad last year. And I was like, oh God, does Brennan have some sort of crazy stat that says they're good? And you're like, and they're worse.
No, like last season, they couldn't nab bases. They got thrown out. That's one thing. Like this season, it just seems like they're making
They can't run the bases.
Really dumb base running decisions, which does not help when you can't hit with runners in scoring position. They're really running on Manoa today.
Even that double steal today was like, I probably shouldn't have worked out.
No, yeah. Or Vlad steal after attempting it, the bold play. To his credit, too, Lourdes was one of the better base runners on the team last year. Not like speed-wise, but like in terms of intelligence on the base pass. Like he was always a good base runner.
One of the most
you've lost him.
Unathletic.
Oh, yeah.
Athletic looking people ever. Like
it's weird looking, but he got it done. And that was you're now missing
that was sad when they threw him in there. I wasn't like Gurriel on Twitter where it's like, oh sweet, we got Dalton Varsho. I'm happy if they trade anyone, and then you see, oh, it's Gurriel that was traded and he was upset about it.
So Brennan, before we move on and get your topic, I do want to hear how Alec Manoa is doing. I know you've got the game on currently, or no, you don't.
No, I do.
You don't. You're like, I don't want to give this update.
Okay, well, so let's see. He has pitched 1 1/3 inning, 2 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 2 walks. He hit a
so it's better than last time.
Yeah,
he has 2 walks. He has 2 walks and a hits batter in 1.1 innings,
and only giving up a run though.
Oh, and
yeah, but I mean,
better defense behind him.
That last game was like,
thank God that wasn't
baby steps. We're a step further than we were last game.
They've caught 1 runner, but they've stolen already 3 bases off of him as well.
In an inning and a third.
Yeah.
Wow.
Imagine you have like a stud major league pitcher appearing on your minor league team, and he's like worse than who you have. Just
was anybody surprised that they were starting him at AA tonight?
That was going to be my question. Yeah.
AA had a hole in the rotation because Trenton Wallace went out. He's injured.
Their reasoning made sense too.
I don't think he should be able to be like seen right now. I think the FCL is not streamed.
I think he should just be hanging out in the complex.
That's what I'm suggesting is that after last outing, he has a lot of work still to be done. And I don't know that you want so many eyes on him.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas there are people from Sportsnet there to report on this game. Right.
Yeah. Shai Davidi's there right now. Like he's under the microscope. Yeah.
Right. And I just, if self-esteem is any part of the issue, I just feel like this is not a good move.
I think it is. I think I can't, like, it's obviously speculation on my behalf, but I do think the wild card, the game kind of did mess with his mentality a bit. Obviously, there's mechanical issues and the pitch clock as well, but I do think a little bit is to do with the mental aspect of the game.
If confidence is your problem, I don't think getting shelled in the Florida League and then AA is going to help the confidence at all. I don't think this is helping anything, especially with the coverage that it's getting.
But I agree with Brennan 100%. I mean, I was in that press room after Manoa's appearance during the wild card game, and if anyone else was there, if anyone else saw that press conference, that was a broken man. Like he was not the same person.
That's the thing. The first inning was bad, but he settled in and then
was fine.
But just like I've never seen a professional athlete look so dejected and hide it so well. Like he was, he kept his composure. He was very, very good in that press conference, but man, that game broke him, and he has not been the same mentally since. And there's a lot of people, a lot of keyboard warriors recently that have been saying some things about his weight gain in the off season. I don't even want to touch on that, but I will say, if anything, that it's further evidence that he's going through something mentally, and he needs support, and he doesn't need a million cameras in his face. No. And this is something that I think should be happening quietly behind the scenes. This is a guy that something's going on, and I think that the team has a responsibility to keep him out of the spotlight during this.
Agreed.
He's struck out 2 batters.
So I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on here for a second. Adam and I did a video on Wednesday, basically breaking down what has happened with Alec Manoa after his start at the Florida Complex League. And it was really interesting on something personal with David Sampson. He brought up, he kind of ended his Wednesday podcast with 5 minutes on Alec Manoa. And as a former member of the Marlins front office, he's kind of got that front office view of things. And what he was saying is that it was either horrible mismanagement by them, not removing him from the game sooner. Even if the game plan was he goes 3 innings, you could easily, with eyes on, you just change, nobody knows. You could just pull him after the first inning in some trouble and be like, hey, he struggled. We did what we wanted to do. It's no big deal. We're all good. Yeah. Yeah, you got Patrick Watt. Exactly, Jack. Very well put. Exactly. And that was actually part of the video too, that Adam brought that up, was just the Patrick Waugh of it all. And David Sampson went on to say that the only way that it was either a big mistake on the organization's part or there was a message being sent. Now, if there's a message being sent, the only person that message would be for Alec Manoa. And so the tinfoil hat of this whole thing is that the Blue Jays sent him out knowing he wasn't right in that Florida Complex start, because maybe he has pushed back a little on changing some things, on conditioning, on whatever it may be, right? Because as an organization who is so thorough, and we know the Blue Jays are a very thorough organization that constantly has the numbers in front of them. And I have had the head of the mental performance department on the show, Robert DiBernardo. He's a brilliant man, and he knows psychology inside and out. So it just seems like there's no way the Jays didn't know they'd be messing with a young man's confidence that already was pretty, on the edge. So I'm just curious where everyone's thoughts are on this. Is it possible the Blue Jays were sending a message, or am I just reading way too much into this and grasping at straws to trying to figure out what's wrong with our ex-ace?
I want to hope you're wrong. Like, I want to believe that's, I'm not going to say tinfoil hat, but I want to believe that's a stretch. I can't rule it out. I can't even say that I have any plausible reason to say it's not true. But if it is, someone needs to be held accountable for that, because mental health, whether in sports or out of sports, is an extremely serious issue. It has not been taken seriously in sports. It has not been taken seriously in hockey. It has not been taken seriously in the NFL. And, I don't know specifically how it's gone down in the MLB, but like, if someone is struggling and their team is like, we're going to put you out and just get lit up to prove a point, people need to be fired.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a fine line between the way, like, if you go on Twitter and people will be like, oh yeah, the burgers, blah blah blah, and someone who's gained 100 pounds since COVID. It's irritating. But the organization, from what Scott Mitchell reported on Overdrive, was that the organization was not happy with that. I don't think they want to send a message like that, though. I think the game plan was just, hey, go pitch this amount of innings or this amount of pitches, and then you'll be taken out. But obviously, I don't think anyone expected him to give up 11 earned runs.
He was down.
By the way, I do want to clarify, this is just from my brain, all speculation. I know nothing. Honestly, I was just trying to figure out why they would send him back out. I mean, if you look at his line, even after 2 innings, he'd allowed 5 earned runs. And then they put him back out in the third to just get completely hammered. it just didn't make sense to me, which is why I am kind of grasping at straws, because I want to believe this organization isn't a bunch of bumbling idiots. And the amount of times over the last like 4 months that I've been like, they're either completely negligent or they're idiots. I don't want to I don't want to constantly be saying that, right? I want to believe in the organization that I'm cheering for.
Well, and then the spin afterwards, right? It was about the process, not the results. And we saw some positive things. And how often did we hear the Sportsnet crew repeat those phrases, which I just don't buy, by the way. I think it would have been easier to just simply say, that wasn't what we hoped for. And we will continue to work on with Manoa on his long-term success. That's what they should have said.
Yeah.
And of course, they are, the mouthpiece of the ownership. So we have to take things like that with a grain of salt. But look, I mean,
absolutely. I know that was coming from ownership, right? Or coming from the front office. But the front office would have been better off simply saying, all they had to say was, we are committed to the long-term success of Alec Manoa, right? Rather than trying to gloss over what that outing was.
I think, so he did give up those 11 earned runs. There's really no sugarcoating that. You're giving them up to teenagers who are more than likely amped up. Hey, there's
they want to show what they can do too.
Yeah, no, a former Cy Young candidate right here. Let's just tee up on him. And you can see the difference between that, like the box score in this game right here.
Kevin Gosling wants to just say they got up for him. They got two up for him. It's not
exactly.
No, and I think there's some truth to that, but I don't think you could sugarcoat. Like, there's no positives if you go down to face teenagers and you give up 11 earned runs.
On the other side of things, none of us watched the start, right? I don't know if any of you guys saw it.
No,
he very well could have been working on something that he knew coming into it he was going to get his shit pumped. And it didn't matter. You give up 11 runs, you give up 6 runs. It doesn't matter. You need to go out there and try and locate the slider better or get some spin here or do this or do that. And it's one of those things where it's like, ahead of time, it's like, I'm pitching this way. They know I'm pitching this way and they're going to hit me. But I need to see if I can try and do this a little differently than I've been doing it.
Which makes the move to Double-A even weirder.
Mm-hmm.
Like if that is your process, right? If you're just
same concept though, right? I think it's just a better spot to be in right now. They had a hole. You just need someone to save your arms in Double-A. You're going to go out and face batters anyways. You don't care if you get the win or not. You're just going out there to throw and try and work on Alec Manoa.
It's the attention on him
hitters.
though that I think
that's
is the
a little
problem.
tougher.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, what do you guys think, or you folks, I should say, think with when it comes to Alec Manoa in Double-A, if he gets, like if he really struggles over, let's say he gets 2 starts in Double-A and he's really struggling, like, doesn't it look bad to send him down to Vancouver?
Do you think he gets 2 starts in Double-A? I don't think he does.
Do you think he goes right to
I think he goes
Buffalo?
Back to the complex tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's possible. Yeah.
I don't think they're keeping him there to be a pitcher in Double-A. I think they're giving him a start there because the spot came up.
I think also better competition to kind of see where he is. Like,
so they're just going to yo-yo him all over wherever there's a spot. And I can be
tinfoil hat time. I think that the FCL game was probably to be like just pitch, locate it. Look, in 4 years, no one's going to give a crap if you have like a 137 ERA in fucking the FCL, right? No. I think this one is more to be like, okay, let's test you against some guys who are almost MLB ready. Let's see how you do pitching against them. I think that's just conspiracy, purely speculation, but that is how I'm reading into it.
Bit of a tangent before we leave this topic. As a journalist, I am like really hung up on how Double-A is spelled out instead of just using 2 A's. That really bothers me. We are using 8 characters, including a dash, for a 2-character word. I know I'm derailing the podcast, but I just needed to get that out of my head.
Well, I guess because AA also represents something else. So
just
to
but
Alex Anthopoulos, and that's a sore spot for us.
Yeah, that's
exactly what I was referring to.
Which
is the reason some of us are in AA.
Well, after last night, I am. Jesus. No, it's frustrating to spell when you cover prospects and literally all you do is like write about Double-A. It's like double A. Why do I have to keep writing this? I could just press shift 2 A's. Like it's frustrating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I needed to be heard there.
Okay, Brennan, do you have a topic for today, buddy?
I was gonna say Manoa and then the All-Star game, but those
kind of stepped on those.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can move along to Brandt here.
I can think
good
of
on
one for you though.
You let us know. Brandt, what do you want to talk about today, bud?
I had a couple. Obviously, we already touched on Guillermo, so I don't really have anything there. But
Okay.
I do want to talk about Luis Rivera a little bit. Does it not seem like Luis Rivera makes way too many mistakes as a third base coach to be noticed that much? Like it seems like there's always something like every couple weeks where it's like, oh, Luis Rivera had a bad send. Luis Rivera didn't send the guy. And I know it probably comes with the territory as a third base. You're like, you always think, oh, it could have been better if he did this. But it seems to happen a lot with Luis Rivera. And I don't know if that's just me, but that's what I'm kind of looking at after this series.
So I don't know the numbers, Brandt, and I would actually, if there's someone in the grounds crew here, someone in the chat who wants to do the homework here and see if you can actually break down what's the average amount of mistakes a third base coach makes and what Luis Rivera is at. That's probably the best way to figure that out. But I will say, without knowing the numbers, if there is a mistake that stands out, it's always going to be the third base coach mistake. Sure. It's not going to be the first base. I mean, yes, the first base, like Bo shouldn't have been waived today to go to second, but it's the stakes are so much higher when you're holding a guy up at third or waving him home, right? Because even if yesterday's game, instead of Bo getting thrown out at home, he'd been at third, and then let's say Vlady or who was up to bat there,
Chappie strikes out.
Let's
say he strikes out.
Let's be real,
right?
It's possible, very possible right now,
which is incredibly possible. I know personally, I would have been like, why didn't they just risk it and see if Bo could have scored? So,
yeah.
I would have waved Bo home, and you know what? He hesitated on the third baseline, and you could easily blame him for that one. So I don't know.
On the hesitation side of it, do you think Luis Rivera sees Bo Bichette and what he's become over the years in terms of speed, and kind of saw him? He's like, yeah, that's Bo. He can run, and then you're like, wait, he's slow as shit nowadays, and kind of like thought maybe this isn't a great idea. I don't think he can beat it out. Because if we're talking like 2019 Bo Bichette, I think he at least makes that play close.
What happened was base running.
I don't know.
He was so good. It's so
he's
weird.
In 2019 he was in the 83rd percentile for sprint speed. 2021 he was 74th. This year he's 43rd.
His hair acts as a parachute.
But he's had the hair the whole time.
It's a little longer.
It's longer, a little more weight.
A little long. Yeah,
I see someone.
He's also gotten a little thicker, like upper body wise. Like he does look
fuller.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I honestly don't know what happened to his speed. I was watching the game and my first thing was they sent him, right? Like I would not have sent him. I literally was like, they sent him on that. And then you saw the actual play again and saw the hesitation. I'm like, I don't even know whose fault this is, but this was bad all around. With regards to Luis Rivera, I wonder because I don't watch other teams enough to know if they're also yelling about their third base coach all of the time. You know, Rivera's been around for a really long time. I am somewhat surprised he's lasted this long, but he does work with the infield. And if he is credited at all with, for instance, Vlad's shift to first base and his improved defense there and the improved defense that we're seeing from Bo this year, if he's in any way credited with that.
I think former improved defense from Vlad, but yeah.
Sure. Okay, fair. That buys him a fair amount of leeway.
Yeah.
So to touch on the Bo speed thing, Chucharu says Bo's bulked up substantially since then.
Yeah.
Look at him in
he
practice.
does look thick.
He is definitely put on muscle, and that it could just be as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thick like a Snicker.
Okay.
No, I have no idea. Like, it's an issue with like Levis is going to have that issue as well. Like, he is going to get even bigger. He's very slow. Orlevis Martinez, but it's something when people bulk up, they lose their sprint speed,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks because
I'll take it with Bo though. He's hitting what 315, 316 with 13 homers, 14 homers.
I think his value.
I don't care if he's fast anymore.
Yeah, because he's driving in runs. It doesn't even matter. And once he's on base, there's no one to drive him in. So
exactly.
Okay, so this transitions really well into my topic. So we will go to you in a second here, Jack, but because Brennan kind of touched on it, I'll get to it here. So Aroldis Martinez in April was hitting a $189 with an OPS of 434. Since May 10th, he is 43 for 144. He's hitting 300. He's got an OPS of 1,047, and he's walking at a 15.6% rate, which nearly as many walks as strikeouts, 28 walks to 30 strikeouts. We're going to see where Baseball America puts him, but my guess is he finds his way back into the top 100 when they put out their midsummer top 100 rankings. Brennan, you're following the minor league guys the closest, and we'll of course touch on what everyone thinks about this, but is Aroldis Martinez moving back up the prospect rankings in your opinion? And even on a more hopeful question, can you see him contributing to this Blue Jays team in a year or two? Is he a legitimate replacement for maybe a third baseman?
So I was trying to tell a lot of people last season, I'm like, he's so young for the AA level, but he's still hitting 30 home runs. You have to, it's kind of the thing where you look at that. The first month, he was just really unlucky. A lot of nice plays were made against him, and he was like mashing the ball on the ground, of course, but the tools have always been there. The power is insane. He just smacks the ball, but now that you have added the plate discipline that he has now, that's why he's walking so much, and because they're just terrified that this guy's going to send a nuke to Great Britain. That's how hard he hits the ball. So no, I think that he definitely can contribute, and probably 2 years. It depends with Chapman as well. Like if they can't re-sign him, is Barger the next guy up, or is it someone else? Or Levis?
Brennan, out of curiosity, what is Aroldis's third base ability? Is
he's
he's got a good arm? Is he?
Yeah.
Where would you rank him as a AA third baseman? Is he average?
Yeah, he's good footwork there. He'll definitely be able to stick at third base. He's not a shortstop. He just doesn't have the range, and like he's gonna bulk up even more. So I think that.
So Aroldis Martinez is 21 years old. The average age in AA, by the way, is 24. Jenn, do you see a possibility where Aroldis Martinez maybe has been given up on too soon for how young he is? Or maybe, I don't mean given up on, obviously the organization hasn't given up on, but his luster and his hype is definitely worn off to fans. Do you think there's a world where people were just judging him as a 20-year-old too quickly?
I think so. I think, I think the average fan gets really high on a prospect. And then if that prospect doesn't continue to perform at that level, then all of a sudden, the fan base loses interest or doesn't, writes them off because they're not following the entire trajectory of their career, right? Not everybody is into prospects. So they hear a name or they see a stat line and that gets them excited. But if that isn't sustained, then they just, ignore it. So yeah, I think he's far too young to have anybody sort of write him off. And I do see him as potentially a third baseman of the future, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Sure would be nice. Brandt, anything to add on Aroldis Martinez, or Jack, anything to say here?
Got nothing.
I just want to point out that Alec Manoa was also hit by a comebacker. He's still in the game. Yeah, I posted it to Twitter as I was.
All of my prospect information comes from Brennan. So if he hasn't said it, then I don't have it.
Yeah.
So
for everyone in chat, by the way, Brennan, do you want to shout out your Twitter? Because everything you post there, if you folks want to know about the affiliates and the prospects coming up in this Blue Jays system, Brennan is the guy. So go ahead and plug yourself here, bud.
My Twitter account is Brennan_L Delaney with an underscore before the D as well. Wait, shit. Can I redo that? It's Brennan_L_D. That's my Twitter handle. I sometimes post clips, talk about prospects. I'll write for Blue Jays Nation and Oilers Nation.
Where do people go to find your articles? Blue Jays Nation?
Blue Jays Nation. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Appreciate the shit.
All right.
Giving me time to shout out.
There you go. All right, Jack, let's end on you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming back, buddy. Always like having you on the show. Love chatting baseball with you. What is your topic for today?
I brought two. They're both light. I'll just give you one. I mean, we had such a heavy conversation last time I was on. I figured I would keep things a little light. So, not sure if you guys saw the video shared by the Jays for Canada Day, but Bo Bichette was among the handful of players that had no idea what loonies and toonies are.
Must be nice.
So I'm a little bit concerned here. Okay, like we have players like Kiermaier who are just like all in on the culture, and we have Bo who has played for the team for years, and it's just like, I don't know, what are they, cartoons? Like, dude, give me a break. We need it. So yeah, we're having a Bo intervention. That's how we're ending this show.
I don't think Bo's ever had to deal with a loony or
What's
toonie
a
in his
loony?
Oh, 100%. 100%. He's never handled small change, but like
until he learns about
didn't know we had coins until now.
Yeah.
It's still saying something. It's still saying something about his adoption of the team and the country's culture, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not spending small change, you would think you would have come across a loony or a toonie at some points.
Or just be aware they exist at the very least.
Yes.
Like Chappie and Mitch White also thought they were cartoons. I cannot blame either of them. They haven't been here forever. So that's my thing I'm bringing to the table today.
That's fair.
I missed that completely, buddy. Bo Bichette doesn't know what a loony and a toonie is. That's very disappointing.
Does he know what a double is?
I don't think they covered that, but there's it's a really fun one. If you haven't seen it, it's on the Blue Jays YouTube channel. It's also on my Twitter, which has a lot less clicks than the YouTube channel of the Blue Jays.
Jack, thank you so much for joining us, buddy. I'll give you a second here to plug what you're working on. Where can people find you? And what do you got coming up here? You're writing any good stuff here? I know you're writing for BlogTO.
Yeah, so I'm a writer and a news editor at BlogTO. Nothing too spicy coming up. No Anthony Bass style coverage, at least that I know of. But
you know what?
Hopefully,
good for
yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
There's still 70-something games left. You never know.
Yeah.
And there's a few players on our team liable to do similar shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Jack_Landau. Some real unhinged tweets, complete waste of your time. Hope to see you there.
All right. And Brandt, we finally have managed to get you on the show. So this is your debut appearance. I hope that you enjoyed it, right?
I had a blast.
Hey,
I hope I did all right. I hope I didn't say anything too stupid.
No, we look forward to having you back. But of course, you run your own podcast, The Flight Deck. Where can people find it?
I don't even know the own handle, but if you go to my Twitter or Instagram or anything at Brandt Dubs, it's in the description there. You can find it. Everything that I do, I have that podcast, everything that I write, podcast, everything. It's all there.
Connor, who's in the chat, who has been on the show numerous times, always has the handles down. So
I'm so proud of him because I don't.
hope Connor gives you shit for this.
Well, he probably will. It's okay. There's like 3 different handles. I didn't do it very well. And I don't remember which one's which.
The Flight Deck with an underscore.
Yeah. One of them, is that what it is?
Brennan knows.
There you go.
Brennan's
Thanks,
helping
Brennan.
the other. Yeah. All right. And Jenn, our iron person on the show, we always love having you on. You're just a mainstay, and we love that. Where can people find you on Twitter?
People can find me at baseball_Jenn, and that's Jenn with 2 N's.
Jenn with 2 N's. All right, everybody in the chat, thank you so very much for following along. and being involved. Fingers crossed the Blue Jays, now that we're not dealing with AL East teams, can have some wins as we go into the All-Star break. All the best, everybody.